Hi, I'm Maddie Cunningham, and I have been reading one of the great books. I've been reading Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, and I think that Crime and Punishment is one of those books that not many people would necessarily classify as pleasant or delightful to read, but, well, because the story revolves around this student named Rodion Raskolnikov, who begins the book by committing this grievous act of murder, and then the rest of the story kind of unfolds or spirals as he grapples with the fact that he committed such an action. So he's dealing with the psychological and physical and emotional consequences of that. And I think two things stood out to me. The first is kind of the seriousness and irrationality of transgressing the moral law. And I think you see this specifically in one scene where Raskolnikov talks to Sonia and he's trying to figure out the reason why he committed such an act. And he'll present different options like, I want it to be extraordinary, I did it out of spite, or the devil tempted me. But in the end, he can't understand it, and he repeatedly says, no, that's not it, that can't be right, that's not it. And so in the end, he can't understand, and I think this really causes him to suffer. And it brings to mind that verse, the heart is desperately wicked, who can understand it? But this leads to the second point that impacted me, which is I think Dostoevsky presents kind of a type of double suffering in Crime and Punishment. So with Raskolnikov, he suffers in a atheological, kind of hellish way that doesn't have a purpose. It's just because he committed this wrong. But I think this stands in stark contrast to another type of suffering, which Sonia represents, which is more of a redemptive, formative suffering that has a purpose, and that purpose is forgiveness and redemption. And so the rest of the book, you're wondering, can Raskolnikov use this type of suffering and confess in the end? I think Crime and Punishment touches on the theme of the possibility of forgiveness. So it's asking, who can be forgiven? And by doing so, it's saying that God has the power to save even the worst of sinners, and it emphasizes the means through which he does that, I think specifically through suffering. And it reminds me of the verse that talks about how suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and that hope does not put us to shame. And so I think it's really powerful in that way. I think the BCS education equips you to, in the best way, to know God more, and because you know God more, you love him more, and because you love him more, you want to know him more. And so it's kind of this cycle of growing in knowledge and growing in love of God and the world that he has made. And it equips you to take that knowledge and that love and apply it to those around you, to explain why you believe something and how to think critically about it. And so yeah, I think that's the best part of it.